Just to confirm for the listeners who we got on the phone here, it is the one and only MC Foxy. Is it you, sir?
Good afternoon, good morning, and welcome.
Yes,
What's up?
it's afternoon here. I guess it's evening over there. You
Yeah,
said
it's evening time right now, yeah.
okay, and I believe there's a fire in the hole. Am I right in saying that?
There's always a fire in the hole, man. If you don't know, you better get to know, because we're always rolling upon the rhythm. That's how we roll. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
Drum and
Thank you.
bass jungle worldwide.
All right. Just to give you a framework of what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask some fun questions, get to know you a little, then we'll dive into some industry ones. Okay?
Cool, no problem. Shit.
All right. Can you tell me what was the first album you ever purchased with your own money?
I ever purchased with my own money, Electro 7. It was like a compilation album of electro music, and this was roughly around 1984.
Oh, wow.
85.
So this is like before synthetics even became popular. This must have been some very interesting sounds.
Yeah, I had my late grandfather. He lived in New York, so at that time I used to get music straight from America, sent over to me in London. So I was quite up to date with the sounds that was coming out of New York at that time. So yeah, it was very early, very early.
Well, and that's interesting. It's progressive. And when you were talking about your grandfather, I would have thought you would have been bringing something out of your heritage background. Like, where is your family from?
No, my heritage. I'm born in England, born in the UK, Croydon, South London, where a lot of you find quite a lot of big artists coming out of there. A lot of different kind of music genres. You've got people like Hatcher and Bengal and all those kind of guys on the dubstep kind of scene there from Croydon. But my actual cultural heritage, my mum is from Barbados, and my dad is from Guyana.
Okay.
So yeah, West Indian, Caribbean.
Well, yeah, and that's I saw that you were just in the Barbados. That's what made me kind of ask that.
Yeah.
But your dad was in New York sending you music in the 80s.
That was my grandfather. But the funny thing is, my father lives in New York as well. So yeah, he's lived in New York all my life as well. He lives in Brooklyn, so I've been going there since I was about 10 years old. So the last 30 years, I've been going backwards and forward.
Interesting. So then what would you say was your first experience with like sound system culture?
Rolling with my cousin Rodney P, who's a very established, legendary like UK rap and hip hop artist. Rolling with him when I was about 14 or 15, he was on tour over here. He was signed to Tim Westwood's initial record label, I think it was called Uzi Records or something like that. And he was on tour over here with Queen Latifah. Yeah, I was rolling around with him. It's kind of crazy, and just there's not so much a sound system. That's with more like artist kind of stuff. And then with reggae sound systems, it's mainly in the streets down in the area called Waterloo, where Skipper comes from. I used to hang around with Skipper them times there, and his older brothers. And there used to be big sound systems down there, mixing over to like sound systems from Brixton, like Asher World and Sovereign, and yeah, just got caught up in the music vibe, mainly through my cousin, Thunder Banton, who's a drum and bass MC. Does a lot of stuff with Lucky G and all those guys. He had his own sound system from when he was about 14, 15. So yeah, it's just been non-stop part of my life, I think, really.
It's interesting, yeah, because your sound is very sound system. When I listen to you on the mic, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it is.
It's already, yeah, it's rudimented in sound system culture. What would you say then is like the influence that bled you into jungle drum and bass MCing?
Rodney P. Working with Rodney P, working with the UK rap artists at that time. Not even working with them, just hanging around them, because I was only about 14 or 15 at the time. So I'd be on tour buses and we're going to venues and stuff like that. And then I started actually hanging around in the West End. Met up with quite a few people there, because there was a lot of clubs that were run by different artists. And I started off at a club called Monday Club, which was like the club for all the artists that played that all over the weekend, and they come and rave at that club. That was run by Rat Pack. And that's where I started, and that's where it all went a bit musically.
Is that where you met Fat Man? How did you meet Fat Man D then?
Well, no, I met Fat Man way back when I was 11, and I lived in a different county outside of London, a place called Kent. I lived down there for a couple of years, and I met him. And then when I came back to London, we actually linked up all by chance, because he was hanging around with Stevie Hyper. And I was rolling around with Nicky, and we linked back up. That's how we linked back up with each other. So we knew each other. I've known Fat Man for like 34 years.
That's interesting that you guys all knew each other before you even became artists.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and you mentioned Stevie. I didn't have this in my questions, but I loved Stevie Hyper. Can you share a story of
Don't we all,
Stevie?
God rest his soul.
Yeah,
So
R.I.P.
say that again?
Can you please share a story, a Stevie Hyper D reminiscent story with us?
Um, Stevie, like, Stevie was just a character. Like the way that he MCs, the way that he lived his life. Literally, like he was always on the go. There's no specific stories. It's like you just remember energy in the car, like on the way to an event. Like, I'd be sat in the back and he was sat at the front and he was trying out one of his new lyrics and I said, yeah man, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna smash up this place. He had that kind of arrogance and confidence about him, which was that's what his vibe was about. And that was really, there wasn't really too much to really ever say than that. He was a bit of an arrogant kind of guy, but his arrogance came from his talent, I think, and I think maybe and also to wanting to get his talent out and understood, which I think he was way ahead of his time. He set an agenda and he set a pattern which we and Fatman and a couple of other guys after his passing like carried the torch on and tried to push forward and push the MC side of things forward and get us noticed as much as the DJ kind of thing, and I think that worked. So I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a story, like his legacy of him passing has given us the impetus to push the MC side of things a lot more.
Very interesting insight. Let me ask you this then. Do you think without Stevie Hyper D, the MC would be where it is today?
No. No hesitations, no slip-ups, no thoughts, no thought thinking about it. No, he wouldn't. It was just an evolution. He probably was part of it, a big part of it. And if he wasn't in it, it would have been a total different evolution. I don't think we'd be at the same point.
Yeah, he was his energy. You talk about arrogance. I want to touch on that. And I never met the guy, but I've heard different types of stories from different folks. And my conclusion on that is that he was arrogant to people who he didn't care not to be. Like, because when I hear fans experience, they liked him.
That's a nice way to say it. No, he was rude. We were like at points he was rude, but then there was also points where he was absolutely hilarious.
Right.
Like, he was an absolute clown. He was an absolute clown. He was absolutely funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, usually you'd be at the expense of someone else. Like the butt joke we're cussing, but that's stuff that we did from school days, and it still goes on now. I'm getting into this certain age group now, and we still do it. You know, still have a laugh, still rip the shit out of your bedroom, or you know what I mean? So you just have to be prepared for it, but you also have to know that if you were going to go into like a cussing match with him, or just like some kind of slanging match in a joking kind of way, just be prepared to do your best. So it was cool. It was cool. It was all good. It was a character, isn't it?
Rest in peace, Stevie.
That's it.
Let me ask you this. This is a throwback. Do you remember who the Four Amigos were?
Well, I'm going to pretend we didn't discuss this before the interview and say, yeah, I do. In fact, no, I don't actually, because I remember it being Three Amigos, and you actually surprised me. So tell us the answer.
Okay.
Come on.
To fill in the listeners on the little pretext, there's an old Helter Skelter tape that I have with Fat Man, Riddler, Foxy, and Juice Man, and he says this is going to be the first session. Pick up the Juice Man. But okay, then let me ask you then, what was the Three Amigos?
The Three Amigos just came from me, Riddler, and Fat Man. Basically, it was our little thing. I think you can more likely say it was the first MC group, really. You know what I mean? In fact, it was the first MC group that was any kind of no, in my opinion. But it was kind of loose. It was based on our friendships, really. Anyway, just in general. Obviously, I was doing a lot of work with Riddler. Fat Man was doing it. I was doing a lot. Then obviously, Fat Man was doing stuff with Stevie, and I was doing stuff with Stevie and Nicky as well. So then we all kind of like got together, and then we was like the junior one, if you know what I mean. So that's from a little bit like like this TNA kind of thing at the moment. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how that came about.
Well, and one thing I want to say to what you just said is, you guys really were one of the originators. Like, and I want to shout out Riddler with Fully Loaded. I want to talk about you guys with the Three Amigos, and it kind of bleeds into my next question was the New Breed crew. How did New Breed get born?
Well, New Breed came about from initially it was me and Fat Man who started New Breed, alongside with Shortston as an MC, and then X-Man and Herbs became involved. Our original DJs were DJ Reckless and a guy called Dazzler. Those are our original DJs. And then over the years, it metamorphosized from that into more of a super group when Evil B came on board, so did Logan and Magistrate. So it kind of metamorphosized over the course of, I reckon, about 14 years or so from that. And then what the whole idea of New Breed is that obviously we come together as a crew, but everyone's got their own thing going on. Obviously, like X has gone on to be over successful with his next hype and overload events. Evil doing his stuff with UK Gary scene and just on the UK rap scene, like Boy Better Known, all those kind of guys. And obviously Logan and Magistrate with their own individual production and record label success. So it was a no-brainer really. So that's how that came about, and we were all pals as well. So yes, it was kind of crazy. It was a bit of a crazy ride. When I say it was, there's no official stance on New Breed. If you were to ask anybody, does it still go on? Nobody's called up to book. If they want to book, they can. I'm sure they can. But then obviously you just got to try and get 10 people, 8 or 9 people together that are very busy at the moment. So, but yeah, it'd be nice to get some more stuff going.
You know what you just described is what happens with when people are like, why don't they throw parties like they used to? And it's like, because we can't book the people like we used to. It's not as easy anymore.
No, you can't. No, it's not as easy anymore. Like to come through. Everyone's like got different things going on. Like I said, X is doing his stuff, his own events on top of his group, his new group, Problem Central, which is smashing it, and obviously then his own personal bookings as well. So it's quite a lot to deal with. But obviously, if people are willing to pay the money to put the party on, I'm sure people come together and work. So putting it out there, if there's any promoters that think they're big and bad enough to be able to get New Breed back together for maybe a one-off big event this year, they can be done.
Yeah, bigging up and to my listeners.
It'll cost a lot of money, but it'll be a fucking big boy show, though, I'll tell you that.
I like the honesty. It's going to cost you a lot, but it'll be fun.
It would. It'll cost a lot of money because a lot of people charge a lot of money. Some people do a lot more than other people. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I believe that people have to understand something. Doing it for the love and all the rest of it is one thing which we do, and initially it starts off like that, but then, for instance, I've been doing it for like 30 years now. This is what I know. This is all I know. I don't have a craft. I don't have a trade. I don't have previous experience in the normal workforce. If I go out looking for a job now, I'm going to be starting way down at the bottom, which financially doesn't make any sense. So you have to get, I think personally, if the promoters are making £100,000, I think they'll pay accordingly. That's as simple as that. You know, it's horrible and it sounds a bit crude and quite thingy, but the fact of it is that bills need to be paid certain times to enable us to maybe live the lifestyles, to be able to produce the music, to be able to do the performances, to be able to step the actual scene up to what it deserves, you know? So I think it swings and roundabouts, but that's my opinion anyway.
No, I can empathize with what you're saying. The one issue I would say as an objection to what you said is the sustainability of the industry. I don't think the promoters are walking away with the money you just described. I know in our industry at least.
It depends. Like, sorry to interrupt you, but it depends. Promoters are walking away with that kind of money when they're putting on a Drum&Bass festival. Yes, they are. Maybe they are in England, but maybe not in Canada at the moment, but they are here. And again, it is possible for them to make that kind of money, but obviously they are putting on a big major event in the centre of London in a park and shutting things down. And it's costing maybe £500,000 to get that event put on, so £100,000 profit from spending that £500,000 to some people doesn't sound like a lot. But then, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know. That's not my side of things. Obviously, it's just my opinion. But like you said, I'm not really deep in the figures, but I think it can be done.
Well, and what I would say, because I do promote a little, and I do work with other promoters. We don't talk those kind of dollar amounts. We're talking more in the $10,000 to $20,000. But when we look at the numbers, at the end of the day, we're looking to make $2,000-3,000, and usually you lose that through that's the cost of throwing a party kind of stuff. So you're like breaking even at the end of the night. You know what I mean? You're just trying to break even, but you're doing it because you love the music, you love the crowd, you love. But if I was walking away with $50,000, let's say at the end of the night, I wouldn't be saying to my entertainers, "Hey, we agreed to $500." You know, like that's I get what you mean there, but that's why there's always a.
I agree. I do agree with you because you have to understand something. My opinion is formed on the side of the artist, and sometimes, you know, like at the end of the day, there's a little battle between artists and promoters, which is why sometimes I think it's best to actually have an agent. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Some people don't like to deal with agencies, but sometimes for me, it cuts a lot of rubbish out. But at the same time, most artists, which I've been known to a lot of people, if you do approach them, or you do have a way of being able to approach them, are flexible with their price and with what they're trying to do. If you speak to them and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. This is my market. This is the kind of thing that I'm earning, but this is the kind of place that I would like to try and take it to. Can you help me? I think 9 times out of 10, most artists will bend and come over. I think this is to try and ask. I think sometimes agents are a bit zealous and say, no, they're coming for this, etc., etc. But I don't know.
Well, no, and you know what I'll say in defense of what you just described is I recently just went through one where we were so far apart that I told my partner during the first negotiation, they're not going to respond to us. Like, we are so far apart. And I said to the agent, like, can I call you? Can I talk to you on the phone? And she's like, yeah, sure. She gave me her London phone number. And when on the phone, I explained to her, like, this is how many people we're expecting. This is how much we're paying. Like, this is everything. Yeah. And she's like, put it in an email. So I put it in an email, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, we had an agreement in place. And
well, there you go.
I would have never thought, honestly, how far apart we were at the beginning that was going to happen.
I think it's just about an explanation, right? You know, rather than in any kind of like negotiation, you know, like people on the hardball, etc. Okay, listen, the way I see it is that there's a story behind most promotions, as far as I'm concerned, as an artist. When you think of them, there's a story behind it, what people are trying to do, the crowd that they've got here, they might have a following, there's people that are really supporting what they're trying to do, maybe in a small kind of town or whatever else like that. And to me, you have to support those kind of things as an artist. You have to go and do those things. I enjoy doing those kind of things, because sometimes those are the best parties. Mm-hmm. And you never know what can come of those parties. You go and do a party for a lot cheaper for another promoter in one place. You get seen by somewhere where they're willing to pay you double the price. So it evens out in the long run. But sometimes it can be a bit of a struggle, and sometimes I'm not really business orientated too much. So I just try and leave that with my agent as much as possible, unless I know the promoter personally.
I understand, man.
But if I'm approached, I'm more than willing to be flexible. So. Yeah, man.
Well, we'll have links below to your page, so if people do want to book you, and obviously there's a lot of promoters listening to this show, so guys, get on it. Let's get a little Canadian tour going, New Breed style.
Get over to bpmartist.com, or one word, bpmartist.com. That's my agency over there, my agent Ronnie. We got Ronnie over there at BPM Artist. He's doing a lot of good stuff, trying to come through. He's bringing Pesce's just jumped back on, the hearing's coming back through as well, so it's quite a lot of stuff going on over there.
Awesome.
And also MC Foxy, ouch, all one word, so it's MCFOXYOUCH, and that's my Instagram, and MC Foxy for Facebook. So check it out, man.
Like I say, links will be below. Let me ask you this then. Aside from the business aspect of things, what advice would you have for aspiring MCs?
Don't stop.
Just keep going.
Just don't stop. Keep going. Keep practicing. Keep writing. Keep getting kicked back down. Keep getting back up, and just keep on going. If you really like it and you believe it and you're loving it.
Come on, Foxy. Can you let me ask you this? You're telling me there's not some guys you've heard on the mic where you just say, "Dude, just stop."
Like. Well, yeah, there are some people, but then sometimes some people are more hyped about the fact of being an MC than actually MCing, rather than actually doing a job. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
Some people are more hyped. I'm on the mic, because you've said it to yourself 2,000 times and it sounds all right, and it's all in time. You know what I mean? In your mind, but in reality of it is they jump on the mic and it sounds like, what the hell's going on? Yeah, sometimes you do say something to people, sometimes it's best not to. I don't know. It depends. It's hard. If someone comes up to me and says, what do you think? I'm going to tell them the truth, to be totally honest. I'm not going to lie. It depends. It depends on how tired and how hungry I am. It really does. If they're really, really bad, you say, listen, bro, I'm not doing fine enough. Maybe you just stop and have a little listen to these kind of people, and listen back to yourself. Do you actually listen to yourself? What do you think? What do you hear? I'll ask these kind of questions. I'm not going to be that horrible, but I will ask some pertinent questions like, really? You know, come on, have a little look at it. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit down and say I'm perfect. I'm not. I've just got experience in the job. You know, I mean, like 30 years experience. So then that's what I can offer. Other than that, sometimes there's no helping people. Sometimes some people just can't sing. Some people just can't dance.
No, I totally get what you mean, and I can appreciate your genuine nature in staying silent until you ask.
No, I really couldn't, because I can't be horrible, but I can't be, you're really, really good. Because I turn around and be like, what the fuck? And that's not nice all the time, man. Sometimes it's a bit like that. If it's someone because you get it, like people are so hyped up in the moment. You're in some big festival, someone comes over and says, "Listen, I just want to bust you this lyric," and they just spit in your ear and shout really, really loud. And you're like, you don't really get to hear anything, and you can see genuine energy that they're trying to show you. That. So I love and respect that part of it. But then the other part of it is like I really didn't get to hear what you just said, or that was a bit much, and you just went 2,000 miles an hour, or no, I like that little part there. Why don't you work on that little part there? I'll try and give something back real quick, and then move on real quick. That's it.
Yeah, and usually the people that are doing that are high. Nobody sober is coming and yelling in your ear.
No, I'm not gonna get into making judgments on people that get high, because it's been well known that I've been high plenty of times in my career. So I'm not gonna make too many judgments on that one. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they are usually fucking pinging off their head, but you know what? It's life, isn't it? It's life, and something just put. I'm smiling now, laughing about it. The situations that I've been in, but you know, it's cool. You write the music, I wouldn't get to meet some of these people now, and I've met people like that 14, 15 years ago, and now they're running big businesses and stuff like that. So you never know. You can't make assumptions on a lot of things.
Oh, hey, I was one of those people. The reason why I assume it is because I used to get like roasted at parties and kick my lines into other people's ears. But
yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Let me ask you this: what changes have you noticed in the scene from the day you entered to where we are today?
It's just a different animal, isn't it? It's not going to be the same. I'm not going to be saying, "Oh, it's not like that in my day." Oh, back in the day, black days are black and white. No, fuck all that. It's got. That's what New Breed was about. It's about moving forward. You got the new age now. You know what I mean? They're moving forward. I'll be honest with you. Most of the music, I can't really stand it. Like a lot of the Belgian kind of sound, I think it's a load of rubbish. Personally, that's my own opinion. But then you've got people like Serum, Blade Runner, Kings of the Roads that are coming through with some really hard but still real good, still musically tight music. So I'm liking the scene at the moment. I think it's quite good. I'm liking the fact that drum and bass is fucking, and jungle is worldwide. It's getting big notice at big festivals all around the world. Yeah, man, I think the scene's healthy now. It can only get healthier. I think I kicked off a bit of a debate the other day on D&B Talk, a bit of a group about gentrification, and people tried to turn it into a race row, but I just laughed it off because it's got fuck all to do with race. And other than that, I just think, yes.
Hold on, I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to engage what you're talking about. So what's this about gentrification?
Well, my opinion of gentrification is a little bit like what happens over. I don't know if it happens quite a little bit in Toronto, where maybe you had like an area that was really run down, a lot of poor people. They basically priced all the poor people out of the market, and there was a little bit of a vibe. There was that poorness or that thing created a community which brought everyone together. Didn't matter what colour, what race, whatever. And I think that we've lost a little bit of that. So basically, what I was trying to say is that I thought that there's some influences. For instance, the whole Belgian scene. It's drum and bass, it's music. I'm not really into the music that's out. I'm not really into the way that they treat MCs and how they hold MCs in a little bit of contempt, in my view, to be totally honest. But then at the same time, thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of kids around the world are getting into it. And if it opens them into the drum and bass for them to listen to that, to then listen to something else, which then they catch on to, then it can only be good. So I'm looking at it a bit like that. But at the moment, I think the place where I fit within the scene is not on that kind of the side of things, personally.
If I'm not, can I try and like sum up what you just said, and if I understand it correctly, the sound that's coming out of Belgium is more rich white kids, whereas you like the more ghetto sound.
Yeah, you know, I think you just broke it down. Good, well done. Yes, man. Thank you. There you go.
Okay, no, and I get the argument.
I'm going to call you the summarizer.
Summarizer. You know who would be an interesting person to have insight? You know Clayton Hines?
Yeah.
He's always playing the race card, I find, in a lot of topics, and I think he would have an interesting opinion on this matter.
Well, do you know what? Clayton's one of the first people I ever met when I started MCing about 30 years ago. I was known him a long time. Do you know what? I'm going to pass on that one, I think.
We are on record. Let's remember that. We are on record.
I'm on the record. I'm on the record as passing to express my opinion.
That's fine. I'll move us along. I'll move us along in the conversation. Okay. Your parents being from America, I'm sure you're familiar with
No,
the.
they're not from America.
Sorry, not from, but
man.
are in. Your father and your grandfather.
No. My father's in America. My mum's in the Cayman Islands.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she's been there 20 years.
Nice. But okay, you're familiar with America and their monuments, so I'm sure you're familiar with Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If we were to create a Mount Rushmore for jungle music, whose four faces do you think would go up there?
Jungle music.
Jungle.
Randall,
Yep.
Nicky Black Market,
Mm-hmm.
Bucky,
All right.
and Kenny Ken.
Wow. Salute. I like those four.
Yep.
Not, you know what? I didn't expect those four from you. I thought it was going to be more weighted on the MCs, but I respect those four.
No.
That's
No,
awesome.
music wise, no. No, that's it. No. That is it. We're up front. They see enough of our big ugly faces as it is, man. Let's give the TJ a little bit of facial credit.
I'm with you, man. All right, final question for you. It's a fun one. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate the rave culture, so in like 20,000 years, someone's going to dig up this vault. We want to know what the rave once was. What would you put in that
Rave horn.
vault? Go ahead.
One number one would be a rave horn.
Okay.
Yeah, a rave horn. What else?
Isn't that something missing nowadays? We don't hear the air horns anymore, do we?
Yeah. No, that was it.
You don't see lighters anymore either. It's all cell phones.
No, it's all cell phones, isn't it? So I reckon air horn or rave horn as you call it. A Technics turntable,
Nice.
a microphone. How many is that there? That's 4, right?
That's 4, yes.
And a large speaker.
You know, I was thinking of a sound system, and let me ask you then, is there a certain
what I
sound
meant.
system that stands out to you throughout your career, one that you remember performing on?
Yeah, Function One. Is it Function One? The one that used to be at the end nightclub in London. Function One. Yeah, Function One. I think it's called Function One sound system. Yeah, Function One.
Interesting. Okay. Because I'm learning, I'm getting into the learning of all these different sound systems and how precious they are to some. So,
Yeah, they are. Function One was a fucking mad sound system, make people sick and all sorts. Yeah, man, that was fucking mad. You used to have Ram Records nights down there, all different shit.
that's awesome.
Yeah, man, that was banging.
That's awesome. All right, well, here, I'm gonna sign off to the listeners, but I want to talk to you, so stay on the phone with me here, okay?
No problem. Cool.
All right, guys, that was him, MC Foxy. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoy talking. As always, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, peace out.